Hey, what's going on, guys? Coach Curtis with Regatta Fitness here. If you just cranked out a strength class, thank you so much for coming to Mobility. If you're new to Mobility and you're just trying it out, thank you as well. Guys, we got to keep our bodies moving well is the best word I want to use. We want to make sure you feel good. We want to make sure you move good. And we want to make sure it's with the least amount of pain as possible, right? So with that being said, mobility is going to be massive. It's going to be very important. So without further ado, let's jump into our first exercise. We've only got 15 minutes today, so what I want to do is make sure you get the most out of this. If this is something that is new to you, getting a little bit of a warm-up before this would be awesome, and I'm just talking getting a little bit of blood flow. 2 to 5 minutes would be amazing. But for time purposes, let's jump right in. We're going to do a three-way leg swing. I'm going to use this foam roller for a little bit of stability, a little bit of balance. But if you need your bed or maybe your bureau or something that's going to help you stay stable, it doesn't have to be this. Just use something, right? So we're literally going to go out as far as we can and across as far as we can without hiking, right? It's not about hiking. It's about just working within what we have in our hip capsule, right? So work within that, loosen it up a little bit. We're just doing a few one way, right? Let's switch. We're going forward and back now, forward and back. And we don't want to hike. It's not about getting way up here. It's also not about going way back here. It's about working within what you have, right? Let that joint just do its job, right? And eventually, as you get to the thresholds, you'll notice you get more range of motion, right? Now let's do some circles. Same thing, control it. Don't force it. Just get a few circles. At this point, my left leg, maybe you're on your left, maybe you're on your right, but your planted leg is probably getting a little bit tired, right? Super, super normal. Relax. Shake this leg out because that leg is going to be a little tired. You can shake them both out. You're going to switch hands with my balancing implement, and I'm going to switch sides. So I'm literally just going to get a few. I'm not really worried about reps here. I'm just doing it for a few seconds right now. Get it loose. Open it up. Try to feel good with that movement. Let's switch directions, forward and back. Again, nothing too crazy here. This is not about how high you can kick your leg, because if that were the case, we would not be doing mobility. We'd be doing karate or Brazilian jiu-jitsu or something crazy. With that being said, let's go with some circles, right? As soon as this planted foot starts getting tired, you know, probably done enough. I'm getting close to running the course on these. Perfect, perfect. I'm going to move this aside. I'm going to get into, we're going to actually drop down to the ground, right? So let's make our way down here. We're going to start with some tactical frogs. Now, tactical frog is a hip opener. We start relatively narrow with our base, so the knees are going to be close. We're going to be on all fours, right? So your toes recommended should be down, but if you have a little bit of an issue with ankle mobility, you can have them flexed as well. That's okay, right? But if you want to get a little bit more out of this, you can get a little bit of an ankle stretch, plus open up your hips and probably get a little more range of motion if your toes are down, right? So about 5 here with your knees relatively narrow, maybe a tad bit wider than hip width, right? That's 3 for me. 4, 5. Open up. I'm on the edge of my mat now. Still not too uncomfortable. Still feels pretty good for the most part. Apparently I've been doing something good because my hip mobility is getting better. Sometimes you might find some restriction there already, even in the first phase. Then when you get really, really wide, that's when it starts to get a little bit tough. Yep, lots of restriction there. That's okay. Don't rush it. Don't force it. Don't be too aggressive. Just backing down. Also, one thing I am making a little harder is trying to keep my feet relatively in line with my leg. If your feet were in a little bit more, a little bit less stressful, right? Definitely if you want to take some of that stress off and relax, perfect, right? But if you want to get a little more out of it here, legs out, oh yeah, that's going to get you, right? Now, I already did more than necessary. Also, future reference, I should have mentioned this. Next time you might want to turn this way, the long way, so you have some cushion for your knees, because depending on what floor you're on, it can be a little bit rough. So if that was uncomfortable, you probably were intuitive and you just turned anyway, so good job. Let's go into some 90-90 hip mobility here. So the reason why I'm focusing heavily on hips is because Hips are massive. When it comes to rowing and being able to row successfully and well, we know your legs are a huge, huge part, but we know this hinge component going back and forth is very, very big. And being able to be mobile there is very important. So what I want you to do is get your leg at about 90 degrees here, right? So we're 90 in the front, roughly 90 in the back. When we rotate, we're going to windshield wipe the knees to the other direction, dig your heels into the ground. Your hands are for support, right? Hands are behind you for support. We're here, then we're rotating right back. Now, doing that without your hands can be very, very hard. I'm actually proud of myself. That was not too bad, but don't force that right now. What I would say is while you're trying to get a little bit better, just focus on keeping your chest upright and your butt on the ground, your heels on the ground, and just rotate back and forth, right? So I believe that's 3. Let's just do a few more. I like to do about 10 on each side. Also, if you want a deeper stretch, when you get over to the other side, feel free to sit up and turn a little bit, right? So that hand that's traveling with the back leg, sit up, turn, you'll feel a little bit of a deeper stretch, right? Back and forth. That's perfect. I think I've got a couple more on each side. You might notice that as I go, I'm shimmying that way a little bit. Super normal. When you do these, your body's going to move. It's not going to stay exactly where you were when you started. Normal. Let's get one more, right? So we're here, here. At this point, your hip should feel relatively loose-ish, right? Depending on how tight you are when you started. So that shouldn't feel too bad. You should start to open up a little bit more, which is great. Now from here, we're going to transition into hamstring, right? Again, flexibility, very, very important when we're rowing, when we're coming back, when we're finishing the row, or even right before we close the rower. We're in this deep hamstring stretch position. Let's loosen those up a little bit so we don't feel so restricted, so tight, right? Let's get into this half kneel. What this is called is the world's greatest stretch. So we're going to cut it in half, right? We're going to frame the hands are going to frame the foot, right? So your foot's in front. You got one hand on this side, one hand on the other side. Dig your toes into the ground in the back. Press yourself through the front foot. Straighten your knee. Get a good stretch, and then back out, right? When it comes to mobility, we're not stretching right now. We're just trying to get mobile. So we get to our threshold, right? So we go as deep as we can, real tight, and then release, relax, right? Go as deep as you can, and then relax, right? One key here, take a big breath in. Exhale. Yeah, right? Let's do it again. As soon as I started exhaling, I was able to get my knee pretty straight, right? So one more. Also, you want your hands to stay on the ground for that one as best you can, right? So we're here. Let's do this other side. Good. 2 more. Awesome. All right, that was good. So now we're going to get into some downward dog, and we're going to pedal this one out a little bit, right? So what that means is still working on the hamstring mobility, calf flexibility. Flexibility, not mobility. But working on those as well, but in a mobility fashion where we're not holding the stretch for a long period of time. We're kind of working our way into a deep stretch and then backing out. Working our way into a deep stretch and backing out, right? So we're here. Now, the goal is to straighten that leg, pedal it out, straight, pedal it out, right? Alternate which heel goes to the ground. That's it. If you wanted to make this a little more intense, you could get closer and then essentially here. This is tough. You can be on your fingertips. If that's too much, like I said, right back down here is a great place to begin. Great place to practice. Once you can get your heels to the ground here as you pedal and alternate feet, maybe that's a good time to be like, okay, let's work my way up a little bit. Let's feel it out. How far forward can I go and still get my heels to the ground, right? You'll notice as you do that, you get a far deeper stretch, far deeper. And that's what we want. We want a nice deep stretch. We really want to elongate and open that area up. But again, you're working your way to your threshold and then you're backing up, right? To your threshold, backing up. This is specifically for the mobility piece, right? Real quick before we jump up, we're going to do some ankle mobility here, right? That's also going to be very big. Your feet being strapped into those foot holders. It's massive to have the proper ankle mobility to be able to get full range of motion in each movement that you're doing, right? So something as simple as some circles is going to be really, really good here. Now, once you start feeling really good, like you're mastering these circles, there's ways to advance that and level it up. And I will create a little bit of an upgrade program as far as how to make some of these movements a little bit harder, a little bit more effective as you master the basics of them, right? But make sure you master these before you try to dive into some of those more advanced techniques and tricks. Now, I didn't count, but roughly 10 on each side. We're going to do the same thing on the other side before we do one more ankle mobility drill, and then we'll switch over. Switch directions. You'll notice you might have a really tough time going in one direction on one ankle, on both ankles. You know, it all depends. But I promise you it gets better with consistency, 100%. From here, we're going to go flexion, extension, flexion, extension, and we're just going to do 5 of each. Make sure you force yourself to the end range of motion, right? Force it. End range of motion. Come right back. End range of motion. Right back. But when you're coming back, this isn't passive. You're actually pulling your toes towards your shin and trying to elongate your Achilles as much as you can there too, right? So all the way forward, back, forward, back. Let's get one more. Awesome, awesome job. Now let's pop up. What we're going to get into is one of my favorites because I love stuff that's simple and you just let your body do the work. It's a forward fold. We're going to do a 5-second pause at the bottom. So we're going to fold over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come up out of that. Relax. Right? Let's do it again. Beautiful. Let's come back up. Now, if you want, you can grab your toes. You can try to pull a little bit more to get more of a stretch in your lower back, more in your hamstrings and your butt, or you can just hang there. It's totally up to you, right? Because in this mobility class, I want you to try to force yourself to get to that end range of motion, but then back up real quick. We don't want to live there. Grabbing the toes is a great idea, right? So being in this hinge position, grab and pull, end range of motion, couple seconds, release, let it go, relax. Let's do that one more time. Good. And then one of my favorites, this is just a really good way to cool yourself down after doing mobility, is going to be child's pose, right? So we're actually going to get back down for that one. So you're going to be in this position here. It's very similar to your tactical frog, except the feet can be close together. Essentially what you're going to find is you're sitting your butt back and down. You want to be in a very relaxed position as best you possibly can. Now, you can get your, I'll take this off or throw it around. You want to get your forehead to the ground, arms fully extended, and you just want to relax here for a minute. Now, there's ways you can upgrade this and make it a little better. You can walk your hands out. Get a little stretch on the lat, right? You can hold for a couple seconds or as long as you please. Walk yourself over. Get another stretch on the lat on this side. Kind of hang out But child's pose is a really good place to wrap that up and get your body to calm down. But guys, this was amazing. Love doing mobility. I'm Coach Curtis with Regatta Fitness. If you need us, you know where to find us. Got so many classes in the on-demand library. Just come and check it out.